Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Happy Thursday. And tonight's class, we are working with Brigid's Cross. So you're like, what the heck is that? That's not a Sanskrit name. Brigid's Cross. So it's a pose that we refer to as that. I have never heard another name for it, but it's essentially when you take how we do that straight-legged twist sometimes. So if you were to do a straight-legged twist, but turn it so that you're laying on your belly instead of on your back, that's basically what the pose is. So it's a big outer hip and thigh stretch. And normally I try and I really have a theme for why I'm choosing the poses when I choose them. But tonight I kind of chose that one just because my hips are tight. So so if I teach it to you, then I will automatically get the benefits. So so that's what we're doing. The pose has been on my mind though, and I do think that it's a really good one for getting into sensation. So that's what I'll kind of leave you with, is that it's a very good position. Hip openers in general are really great for this, for emotional awareness, emotional stability. But when we start to work into the outer thighs as well, is we have, I think, a different awareness of sensation that is not localized just in the pelvis, but that actually extends into the limbs. So being aware of that sensation that can be very intense, right? This is a position that can be very intense for people. So to have that awareness that what we're activating in this pose or what we're stretching in this pose is a place that gets chronically tight through the habits of our lifestyle, right? So it's because we sit too much. It's because of the way that we move incorrectly through our pelvis, through our legs. It's because of weakness in our core. All sorts of things is what tightens up this area of the body. So when we get to stretching it and we get into that sensation, right? And our mind immediately says, I just want to get away from this sensation, like leave me alone. Realize that this is the same thing that our mind does all the time with our habits. Is it says, I don't want to get too close to what's painful. I just want to keep doing the same thing so I don't have to think about it, right? So when we get close to something actually shifting or changing or letting go, our habit, our tendency is to actually scoot away from it instead of staying there and letting something change. So this becomes really the practice, the asana practice is, can you stay with the sensation, not to put yourself in more pain, but can you stay with the sensation that might be intense, knowing that this is how you allow things to change? Is you have to stay with the sensation, right? And changing is typically not comfortable. That's why we always say that it's hard to do, right? So staying with the sensation, allowing things to change, this is really what we're working with when we're working with the pelvis and those big muscles of the hips and thighs. So comfortable seat wherever you are. It's nice that we always say that we start with a comfortable seat. And let the eyes close. And really notice if your seat is comfortable, because if it's not, change it. Right? You can always put a prop underneath your sit bones to lift your hips a little higher. If cross-legged doesn't work, you can have the legs stretched out. You can sit on your shins and Virasana instead. There's lots of options. Bring your attention inward for a moment and just again feel the sensation of the breath. And within that sensation of the breath, let yourself feel what the body is feeling. And feel it without judgment. So you can recognize, oh, my lower back is a little tight. Or one shoulder feels like it's a little bit stuck. Or, oh, surprise, I'm clenching my jaw. My foot is falling asleep already. I've had this persistent ache here for the last 3 days. Okay. Notice all of those things, but notice it within the context of the breath. The sensation is there and the breath is continuously moving. This is how we learn to stay, is that we don't go to the sensation and immerse ourselves in it, but we become aware of the sensation in the context of space. Same way you can be aware of your thinking in the context of the hugeness, the spaciousness of your mind. So notice what feels, sensations that are there. The context of that breath that is always moving. So when the sensation feels like it's too much, you put your awareness back in the breath. And I guarantee you can stay one breath longer. And that's it. It's one breath at a time that we learn to stay. Not forcefully, but relaxing, an easy seat. Asana means seat. The implication is that it should be sustainable. What makes it sustainable is not just the physical position, it's that internal awareness. Just one more breath to feel what you feel. And then bring the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. And we'll open with the sound of Om. Take a deep breath in. Let your eyes float open. Nice, you guys. You can release your hands, please. And then go ahead and if you're seated up on a blanket and that feels good, you can stay there. But bring your feet out in front of you, bottoms of the feet together. Grab a block, just so you have one handy. Have a block. So come into Badakanasana, bottoms of the feet come together. Good. And start with a little bit of a longer diamond. So instead of trying to pull the heels as close in towards your groin as you can, let them move out just a little bit further. Good. And then do feel like you are pulling your toes away from each other. So you have the toes sort of flexing and the baby toe edges of your feet pressing down. So that doesn't mean that you are just pushing into the baby toe edges of your feet, but you want to feel from the baby toe all the way to that outer edge of your heel, rooting down. Good. And then go ahead and walk yourself forward, just keeping the feet awake. And as you let your hands walk forward in front of you, good. Feel as though you're drawing the sit bones back behind you. So it's not just a folding forward, but it's actually a lengthening through your legs as well. And then keep the feet awake. Good. So don't just passively say, oh, I put the toes there and then I left them there. Keep the muscular attention in the feet. So the toes are curling back, outer edges of the feet pushing down. Good. So it's these subtle places, right, where we don't have to be super clenched to be engaged. But staying engaged means that we create better opportunity for muscles like the hips and the thighs to actually release. Good. So take one more breath, letting your back round a little bit in this first Bodakanasana. So you can pull the ribs up and wide, up and back. Press your sit bones down. Keep your feet awake. Good. And then slowly start to come all the way back up, rounding through your back. So doing a little bit of an uncurling of your spine. So stacking each vertebra one at a time as the head comes up. Nice. Good, you guys. Stretch your right leg out wide to the right, please, keeping your left heel in towards your groin. So it doesn't have to touch the right thigh if it doesn't naturally do that. But have that right leg slightly out wide, so a half straddle. There you go. Good. Make sure that your toes, those right toes, are not falling outwards. So roll the inner thigh in and down. Good. So your toes should be really straight up and down. And then turn yourself to the right so your hands frame the right leg. Good. Sit up a little bit taller. You got it. And then start to walk yourself forward over the right thigh. Forward fold. Good. Good. Noticing that left leg, if you've placed it there, so it's still kind of in Badakanasana, but if you're not keeping your foot active, just notice the difference in how that left leg feels in this same position that you were just in without any activity in the foot. And if it doesn't feel as good, make sure that you again push down through the baby toe edge of that left foot. Maybe curl the toes back. Good. Nice, you guys. One more breath. Let yourself twist just a little bit more, turning the right rib cage open, left rib cage forward. Awesome. And then walk yourself all the way back up. Take your hands straight in front of you and then forward fold straight between the legs. Good. Again, not letting the right toes fall out to the right. So you keep that inner thigh rooting down, but then find where your right sit bone is pushing down to the floor as well. So the inner thigh rolls in, but your right butt cheek is rooting down. Good. And it doesn't matter really how far forward you come here, as you just want to get into that fold of the thigh creases. So letting yourself move forward, drawing the thigh bones up and into the pelvis. Good. Awesome, you guys. Come all the way back up. Nice. Release that leg. So send the left leg out wide to the left, bend the right knee, bring the heel in towards the groin. Good. And again, make sure that those left toes are not falling outward. You want them to be literally straight up and down. So that means that you have to focus on inner thigh of the left leg rolling down to the floor. And then turn to the left, take your hands to frame that leg. Sit up tall first. So again, you get full length on your spine. And then start to walk yourself forward. As you walk over that leg, imagine that you're actually kind of pulling that left thigh bone up and into your pelvis. So again, it's not just a forward fold action, but it's a drawing up and into the legs. Good. Keep your left toes awake, heel rooting down. Nice, you guys. So you're going to hear me say that a lot, right? Keep your foot awake, because the more you actually flex through your toes and activate the muscles of the foot through your calf, that helps to, again, keep those muscles of the outer thigh and outer hip active. And when they're active in a lot of these stretches, is you get more functional stretch. Good. Let yourself twist just a little deeper. Right shoulder turns in as the left rib cage goes wider. Nice. And then walk yourself all the way back up. Good. Take your hands center in front of you or right in front of you, and then walk straight ahead, forward fold, keeping the right knee bent. Good. Yeah, left inner thigh continues to roll inward. Left butt cheek presses down to the floor or onto your prop. Again, if you're on a blanket, that's fine. Just keep your sit bones rooting backwards as your spine lengthens forward. Nice, you guys. And again, you're staying with sensation. So even when you come to a place that feels like it's very tight, is you're not trying to make that go away, right? Staying right where you are, right at that edge, is where something has the opportunity to release, right? So it's not to try and get it to go away, but as you relax, the sensation will change. And that's the big thing, right? Is that the point is not to make anything go away. It's to allow things to change. And however it changes, that's how it changes, right? Brings relief in some ways and maybe makes us aware of sensation somewhere else. Walk yourself all the way back up. Nice. Bend both knees again, bringing the bottoms of the feet back together, and grab your blocks. You're going to place your block between your feet. Of course, there's no extra blocks over here anymore. Okay. Good. So start with the block in this narrow orientation between your feet. So the balls of your feet pressing into the block. And again, you might have to move your feet a little bit further away from your groin to do this with the block, right? So press your feet into the block, curl your toes back. So again, balls of the feet into the block, toes curl back. Good. Press the heels into the block and then start to walk yourself forward, forward fold, keep pushing the feet into the block. Good. The point is with that resistance or something to push into is that you keep your outer hips more awake. Nice, you guys. Good. Keep the feet really awake. I'll take one more breath. And then start to walk yourself all the way back up. Good. Turn your block to its next widest setting between your feet. So instead of here, you're taking it here between the feet. Good. And same thing, if you have to adjust because you're now rolling backwards off of your sit bones, make sure you adjust either the feet further forward, butt further back. And then same thing, pressing the feet into the block. Go ahead and walk forward. So Dana, you skipped one.
I did.
Okay. It's okay if you know, as long as you know you're doing it. Good. Pay attention, right? Because here there's a lot of tendency to just let the baby toe edges of the feet completely fall open. Keep your big toe mounds pushing into the block just as much as your baby toe mounds are. Good. So it's like you want to keep your ankle in a straight line. Jessica, more big toe. Yeah, there you go. See what just happened with your ankle? Perfect. Awesome, you guys. One more breath. Send your butt backwards. Good. And then come all the way back up. If this felt like enough sensation, you can absolutely stay with this or turn your block now widest it can go between your feet. Good. Yeah. And I personally like it flat this way because it gives me more surface area for my feet, but it's up to you how you want to do it. So again, pressing feet into the block, baby toe edges pressing down to the floor, but big toes pushing into the block. Keep your ankles nice and supported. Go ahead and forward fold. Walk yourself out. Good. Yeah, so it totally changes the concept, right? When we do this position with the block, that somehow we're supposed to be getting our knees down to the floor. It doesn't matter where your knees go, right? What we're looking for is availability to rotate the pelvis around the hips or around the thigh, right? That's hip mobility. Good. Nice, you guys. One more breath. And then go ahead and walk yourself all the way back up. Awesome. Stretch your legs out wide. So a wide straddle. Good. And then bend your knees again. So drag your heels down and up. So you're up on your heels, toes facing up towards the ceiling. So the knees pop up. Good. And then walk yourself forward between the legs. Good. So the knees don't have to be super high, but you want them high enough that it feels like it's meaningful. And squeeze your heels up and in. So it's not just that you place your heels with your knees bent, but it's like you're dragging your heels along the floor, trying to pull your thigh bones up into your pelvis or into your belly. Good. And then forward fold. Nice. Awesome, you guys. And then take a little walk towards your right leg, so towards the inside of the right leg. Good. So the forearm can come right inside that right shin. Good. You can drop the forearm to the floor if that's available, or just stay on your fingertips. Good. Turn your ribs open, please. Stretch the left arm up to the sky first, so you reach open through the ribs. Good. And then again, optional is to take that left arm over the ear and get into the full side stretch. If it feels good to just stay reaching straight up, stay. Keep those knees bent though. Don't let your toes roll out. So inner thighs roll down. There you go. Good. And then release that twist, come back towards center, and then walk towards the left leg. Yep. So left forearm up inside the left shin or the left knee. Again, you can drop the elbow to the floor if it will go there. If not, stay on the fingertips. Take the right arm up to the sky, open. So you're trying to stack the right rib cage on top of the left. So you're really trying to get into that side twist. Good. And then optional again is to take the right arm over the ear and reach a little longer into the side stretch instead of just the open twist. Good. Nice supine. Good, Beth. Nice, Merle. Nice, Lisa. Come all the way back up to center. Good. Let your legs come all the way out to straight. Hooray. And then walk yourself straight forward between the legs, forward fold. Good. Keep your feet awake. Nice, you guys. Yeah, and keeping the feet awake doesn't mean that they have to be flexed to their maximum, but it means that you should be aware of your heels rooting down to the floor so that your knees don't hyperextend. Good. You should be aware of trying to roll the inner thighs down to the floor. Good. One more breath. Walk out just a little bit further. Drop your belly to the floor. Go for it. There you go. Nice. And then walk yourself all the way back up. Awesome, you guys. Good. Bend the knees, cross the ankles in front of you so you can roll forward onto hands and knees and come into downward facing dog. Yep. Pedal your feet just a little bit in your down dog. Let the knees sway towards the midline of the mat. So as you bend one knee, you let your hips sway. Good. So you're just pedaling your feet, but you're letting the hips rock from side to side as you do that. Yep, you can let the shoulders go with you. Really good. Good, you guys. And then find your way back to center, back to stillness, please. Awesome. Stretch the right leg all the way up and back behind you. Down dog split. Good. Press out through that heel. So really press back like you're bringing your weight all the way towards that left leg. Awesome. And then step the right foot forward between the hands, lunge. Good. Inhale both arms to the sky, high lunge. Nice, you guys. Deep breath in. Good. And then as you exhale, release the hands down to the floor or blocks. Keep your feet exactly where they are. Start to straighten your right leg. Good. So again, if you need blocks for this position, go ahead. The back heel does not have to touch the floor. That's not important, right? Pull that back heel up if you want to, so that you can lift your hips higher and get more stretch on that front thigh. Good. Keep your hips level with the floor. Awesome. Bend the right knee again, please. Back over the ankle. Inhale both arms up to the sky. High lunge. Good. Bend your back knee just a little bit. Lift your hip points up off of that front thigh. Good. And then maintain that and stretch that back leg back to straight. So again, you're getting that stretch to the front of the thigh. Awesome. Exhale the hands back down to the floor or blocks. Again, don't move the feet, straighten the front leg. Good. Notice as you straighten the leg, if your weight is equal on the big toe mound and baby toe mound of your foot. The answer is probably no. So try and take more weight into the part of your foot that is currently not pressing into the floor. Usually it's the big toe mound that starts to come up. So press down into the big toe mound and then pull that right butt cheek back and wide. That's it. Excellent, you guys. Bend the right knee one more time. Inhale, both arms to the sky, high lunge. Good. Keep that front knee over the ankle. Yeah, and just watch the front knee, Beth, that doesn't fall in. Might just be the angle that I'm at, but push that front knee a little wider. There it is. Good. Release the hands down to the floor. Nice, you guys. Drop the back knee. Take both hands inside your front foot. Good. And then roll onto the baby toe edge of the right foot, letting your right knee go wide. Good. And this might be exactly where you stay. Keep pulling that right butt cheek back and in towards the midline. Push your left hip wider and don't let it drop, right? So lift that left side pelvic bone up towards the left. Good. And then walk your hands forward any amount. If you can come down to your forearms here, you can, or you're welcome to. Good. You can also use blocks underneath the forearms. Pay attention, though, to the feeling of that right foot, that your toes are awake. Good. And that you're letting the top of that right thigh fall away from your pelvis. Good. Because being in the position doesn't mean very much if we're there and we're just tense. Right. So you're allowing the top of the right thigh to move away from the side of your waist, to move away from your belly. If being on your elbows does not allow that to happen, come back up onto your hands and focus on allowing that thigh to open more. Good. And then at the same time, press into that back knee, push your left hip wider to the left. Good. Nice, you guys. Nice, nice, nice. And you're staying with sensations. Remember, you bring everything into the context of the breath. If the breath is long, the breath is wide. Everything that happens within that space of an inhale and an exhale is happening within space. So it's not us getting sucked into one sensation and excluding everything else. Good. Again, you can stay where you are or stay on that left forearm if possible, or come up onto your left hand. Stretch the right arm up to the sky, come into spinal twist. So if being on the elbow does not work, come up onto the hand instead. Nice. And again, let that thigh fall open more as you draw your rib cage back. Nice, Harriet. Really good, Beth. Nice, Lisa. Excellent. You guys take that right foot flat to the floor. Nice, Dana. Good. And then scoot your hips back just enough. So you come up on your hands, press your hips back just enough so you stack the left hip on top of the left knee, and then take that right leg forward to straight, Ardha Hanumanasana. So you come up on the heel. Good, like a half split or runner stretch. But your hips should be right in line with that supporting knee. Good. And then walk both hands inside the front foot again. Walk slightly to your left and then turn your right toes in towards the midline of your mat and let your right butt cheek pull wide. That's it. Yeah. And as you pull that right butt cheek wide, press your left inner thigh wide, just like you're trying to pull your sit bones apart from each other. Good. Yep. You don't have to walk very far. The hands are just to allow there to be enough space for you to rotate that right thigh in a lot. Yeah. Good. And then scoop into your low belly. So lift your belly up off of your thighs and then start to come back to center where you pull that right thigh crease all the way back and around and send your sit bones back towards the wall behind you, up and back, and fold forward just a little bit deeper. Keep rooting through that right heel. And guess what? Keep your foot awake. Nice, you guys. Beautiful. Last breath, inhaling. As you exhale, relax a little more, let your spine get longer. Nice, Jessica. And then walk yourself all the way back in. Take that right heel back underneath the right knee. Good. Lift the left knee up off the floor. And then both hands inside the front foot. Walk to your left until you come to the center of your mat. Prasarita Padottanasana. Good. Wide legs. Baby toes paralleling short edges of the mat. Good. Like a standing straddle. Excellent. Make sure your hands can touch something. Hands just in front of you. Come up on the toes of your feet. So lift your heels up. Good. And as you squeeze your shins, try and push your inner thighs wide. Good. So Lisa, you should be facing this long edge of your mat in a forward fold. So like a kind of really wide legged. Exactly there. Yep. You got it. And then up on the balls of your feet. That's it. Good, you guys. Keep your hips lifted super high. Let your heels come back down to the floor. Nice. And then bend your knees. Let your butt move back behind your heels. So you're in like a very wide-legged sort of squat pose. So bend your knees and let your butt move back. That's it. And keep those baby toe edges of the feet rooting down. Good. Doesn't matter how low you can go, but keep your feet rooted. Nice. And then start to straighten the legs again, scooping into the belly. Press your hips up towards the sky. Root through your heels. Awesome. And then walk back towards the top of your mat. Right toes turn forward. Step back, downward facing dog. Good. Come forward to plank pose, upward push-up. Lower down slow, coming through knees first if you need, all the way down to your belly. Good. You can always come through knees, chest, chin. Awesome. Point the toes back behind you. Rise up, cobra, lift head, neck, and chest. Good. Nice, you guys. And then exhale, lower back down to your belly. And then see if you can press into your hands, look slightly forward and feel as though you're going to literally drag yourself along the floor. So see if you can drag yourself an inch towards the top of your mat with just your hands. There you go. Now keep your feet on the floor and from there, rise up into cobra. Don't move your hands. Don't move the rest of you. Just lift up. Little different, right? Yeah, that's a better, more realistic placement for your hands in cobra where they should be, quote unquote. Lower back down to your belly. Press up to hands and knees, please. Take a child's pose, knees go wide, big toes together to touch. Hips back to your heels. And we forget that part of cobra, that we're meant to be elongating the spine with the hands, right? That's the purpose of them. It's not to push us away from the floor, but to give us that ability to extend. Good. Nice, you guys. We'll press into your shins here. So again, there's an awareness in the legs. And then feel as though you are squeezing your knees towards your outer ribs. They don't have to physically move, but that squeezing in is almost the same as what you just did in Bodakanasana. And that's going to activate a lot of those muscles at the outer hip. Good. And by activating them while you are also stretching, when you release the activation, it gives greater release through the hips. Good. Keep pressing into your shins. One more breath, squeezing the knees in. Good. And then stop squeezing the knees. Just let your hips drop towards your heels. And then take a walk to your right, belly over your right thigh. Good. So you're moving the ribs, keeping your left butt cheek moving towards the heel. Awesome. And then come back towards center, walk the belly over the left thigh. Good. Yeah, because we need the legs to really, and the hips to really be able to twist internally, right? Going not the usual direction from what we ask the hips to do. We also need to free up that side body because there's a little bit of a twist in this position, right? Brigid's cross. Come back to center. So a lot of what we're focusing on here is trying to make that feeling of space between where your torso meets your hips. Then walk back up onto hands and knees and come into downward facing dog. Good. Left leg comes up and back behind you into down dog split. Good. Notice there, right? If you really extend in down dog split, if you tend to put your leg up there where it's fairly comfortable and then don't think about it any further, right? Keep your hips level with the floor, but then feel yourself kicking that thigh higher. Yeah, nice, Joy. Really good, Beth. Nice, Maral. Excellent. Step the left foot forward between the hands, lunge. Good. Inhale, both arms to the sky, high lunge. Again, working to bring the right hip slightly forward so your pelvic bones are in line with each other. Good. I would take your feet a little wider right and left, Lisa. I think that's going to help your balance. There you go. Good. One more deep breath. There you go. And then release the hands down to the floor or block. So don't move the feet, but start to straighten your left leg. And again, you can pull the back heel away from the floor as much as you'd like, because the purpose here is to get as much length on the front leg as you can. Good. So turn that right hip forward. Good. Get a lot of length on the left leg, pressing through big toe mound of the foot, especially because it tends to come up off the floor in this position. Good. And then bend the left knee again, back into the lunge, knee over the ankle. Inhale, both arms up to the sky. Here, the back heel should be lifted, high lunge. That's typically where we have it. Good. And again, you're reaching a little longer. So don't just put your shoulders on top of your hips. Keep reaching through the top of your chest, get longer. Really good. And then release the hands back down to the floor. Nice, Merle. Hands to the floor or blocks straight in the left leg again. Good. Again, lifting the back heel as much as you need. So kind of watch that back knee doesn't push way back. It's hyperextending just a little bit. So lift the heel a little bit more and then pull your hips up. Yeah. There you go. A little different, right? Good. Excellent, you guys. One more time, bend the left knee forward over the ankle again. Inhale the arms back up to the sky, high lunge. Good. Bend the back knee a little bit so that you can lift your hip points up off of your thigh. So you actually take your pelvis a little bit more vertical, and then try and maintain that as you press your right thigh back to straight. So lifting it up and back behind you. Good. Nice. And then release the hands all the way down to the floor, both hands inside the front foot, drop the right knee to the floor, and then flex the left toes, come onto the baby toe edge of your left foot, let the knee drop wide. Keep your toes flexing, right? Keep your foot awake. Don't just go into the position and forget. Good. And then you can walk your hands forward any amount, coming down to the forearms if you choose, or onto blocks. Nice. Watch that right hip, so the back leg hip is not collapsing towards the floor. So you want to lift your right hip so it stays in line with the left. And that means you let your left thigh crease and your left hip drop wider to the left. Good. There you go. Yeah, when you're working with hip stuff and lower back especially, is you want there to be as much symmetry between right and left side pelvis as you can. Even if in a position like this, you still want there to be an awareness of trying to keep them in sync with each other. So you actually get more rotation out of the left hip here if you lift your right hip higher. Good. And that's not cheating. It just means that by giving a more neutral position to your pelvis, is you allow the left thigh and pelvic bones to relate to each other more easily. And this is the point of allowing change, right? Is that we don't even realize how difficult we've made so many things in our life become because of our habits. So the habits get a little bit softer. We start to realize, wait, if I just shift a little bit here, lots of other things can become easier. Good. Either stay where you are or add in the twist. So pressing into the right forearm or right hand, take the left arm up to the sky. Good. And again, it really might not work to be on your forearm here. So coming up onto the hand is perfect. And then again, you're letting your ribs fall back as you let the top of that left thigh fall open even more. Yeah. Nice, nice, nice. Good, you guys. Beautiful, Harriet. Nice, Joy. Good. Soften that shoulder, Beth. Right shoulder. Good. Release the hand back down to the floor. Walk yourself back up. Take your left foot back to flat. Good. And then move your hips back in space. So you have right hip on top of right knee. Take your left leg to straight up on the heel. Good. Ardha Hanumanasana. And you can absolutely still have blocks underneath your hands here if that's what works better. And then both hands come inside the front foot. So I don't want you to walk very much to the right, maybe just a tiny bit. And then you're turning your left toes in a lot. So the point here is to get that rotation. So try not to turn just the whole body, but try to actually spin the leg inward from the socket. Good. And then pull your right butt cheek wider to the right. So again, you're pulling wide through the sit bones. Yeah. Nice, you guys. Good. And then a long spine, scooping into your low belly. Start to bring everything back around towards the center so that left thigh crease pulls back and wide as the right thigh continues to push wide. And then send your tailbone up and back behind you. So it's almost like you're trying to tilt the pelvis forward and bring your tailbone up and back. And then extend your spine. So walk forward towards the ankle any amount. Good. Keep the heel rooting down. But that tilt on the pelvis is what's really going to create more sensation at the back of your thigh. Good. And stay with the long, deep breathing. Whatever the sensation is, put it in context up. There's an inhale happening. There's an exhale happening. Don't let the breath stop. Good. As we stop the breath in a moment of intense sensation, the mind gets stuck in that sensation, literally, right? Part of pranayama practice that when we stop the breath on purpose, right, is to remind the breath and the mind, that they are connected to each other. You stop the breath, you ultimately stop the mind. You want to make sure that when you allow the breathing to continue, it allows the mind to continue to flow. Same relationship. Walk yourself all the way back in. Really good, you guys. Bend that left knee again. Bring the heel underneath the ankle. Good. And then lift the right knee up off the floor. Step back, downward facing dog. Good. Come forward to plank pose, upward push up. Yep, lower down slow, coming through knees first if you need. All the way down to your belly. Do that little drag forward, like you're going to take your belly across your mat, a little higher up onto the mat. And then don't move the hands, lift up head, neck, and chest, and reach through your legs. Good. So imagine the front of the pelvis is actually what's reaching up into cobra. Yeah, really good. Press into the tops of your feet. Yes. And then slowly release all the way back down to your belly, please. Press up to hands and knees. Good. Do a little hip circling. So on hands and knees, start to rotate the pelvis, rotate the shoulders. Good. And then move your hips the other direction. Good. And then come back to neutral, please. Hands and knees, downward facing dog. You could shorten your dog just a little bit so you can walk your feet forward, maybe just a step. Again, not a lot. And then right hand comes slightly more center under your gaze. Reach your left hand underneath you for your right ankle or shin. So you're reaching underneath you for a little twisting downward facing dog. The left hand reaching for outer right leg. Ankle or shin is ideal, but wherever you can reach. And then you're turning, so you're looking underneath that right armpit. Good, so let your ribs twist. Yeah. Nice, and then go ahead and release and switch the hands. Take the left hand in front of you, just a little bit more center, and then right hand reaches underneath for outer left ankle or shin. Again, notice if you are swaying your hips to the side, and if your feet are not equally balanced, big toe and baby toe mount. Good. Nice, you guys. Really good, Harriet. Good, Lisa. Turn underneath that left armpit just a little more. There you go. And then slowly release both hands back down to the floor. Good. Step your right foot forward between the hands, lunge. You can drop the back heel, baby toe parallels back of your mat. Come into warrior two. So cartwheel the arms up so the shoulders are stacked over top of the hips. You got it. Good. If your knee cannot come all over your ankle into close to a 90-degree angle, separate your feet a little wider. Good. Enjoy. Just watch that front knee presses just a little bit wide. You can let the left hip spin slightly forward to make that happen. Yeah. And then right forearm onto front thigh, please. Left arm over the ear, extend. Good. Pressing out through the baby toe edge of that left foot. Excellent. Good. And then keeping the left, or bring the left arm straight up, reach the left arm straight up to the sky, drop your right hand down inside your right foot, either to the floor or a block. So you can press your forearm up against your inner knee. Good. And then squeeze the knee in towards the forearm. So again, you want there to be activity there. And as that knee squeezes in towards the arm, pull your right butt cheek back and in towards the midline of your mat. That's it. And then heart open a little more. Good. Excellent. Release both hands down to the floor. Please spin your back heel up. Keep your hands inside that front foot. Good. Let your right shoulder come inside the right knee and bring that right hand around to the baby toe edge of your foot. So you're wrapping the right arm behind your calf. There you go. You want that shoulder pressing up against the calf muscle. And then lift your hips up and back as you lift your chest forward like you're trying to come into almost plank pose with your arm wrapped. Good. So press back through your hips. Lift your chest forward and up. Good. So you want kind of equal forward and back movement. Yeah. Good, you guys. And then slowly unwind. Excellent. Good. Step your left foot forward just a little bit. Take both legs to straight Bodakanasana, using blocks underneath the hands if you need to allow both legs to be straight. Good. So here you want both heels on the floor. So Aparna, step your left foot forward a little bit more. There you go. And then, yeah, if you need blocks, we'll grab your blocks. Good. Left hip spins forward. Nice. And then just for a breath, come up on your right heel. So pull the toes up off the floor. So you should be facing the front of your mat, Lisa. Yep. There you go. Feet facing forward. Awesome. Yeah, all the way up on the heel. There you go. Good. And then release that foot down to the floor. Nice job. Bend your right knee. Step your left foot forward, top of your mat. Good. Bend both knees. Hang for a moment. Take your hands to your outer knees. So hands to your outer knees. Yep. Outer edges of your knees. So not the top of your thighs, outer edges of your knees. And push wide. So your knees are bent. Good. And push your knees wide into your hands. Good. And then root your big toe mounds down to the floor. So your knees are pushing wide. Big toe mounds rooting down to the floor. Good. Now drop your hips a little lower. Keep pressing your knees wide, but pressing down into the big toe mounds. Let your butt move back in space. Good. Maintain this sensation. Take your arms up alongside your ears in chair. So lift the chest a little higher. Keep your inner knees pressing wide and your big toe mounds pushing down. Good. Chest can come up a little higher. Yes. Good. If your knees are not in line with each other, move them so that they are properly in line with each other. Good. And then release the hands to the floor, straighten the legs and bow. Uttanasana. Nicely done. Step your right leg way back behind you, lunge. Drop that heel flat, baby toe parallels back of your mat. Come into warrior two, second side. The shoulders are over the hips. There you go. Good. Again, checking out that if that front knee cannot come directly over the ankle, close to the thigh coming to parallel, widen your feet. So even if you can't sustain that position, having enough room for you to potentially get there means that your groins and your inner thighs are going to have more room to stretch here, which means that also the outer edges of the legs have more room to stretch. Left forearm onto front thigh, please. Right arm over the ear. Try to keep your knee really over the ankle here so that you have that straight downward pressure from your knee through your heel. So push into your heel more instead of letting the weight fall to the ball of your foot here. It's going to make the hamstring muscle work a little bit more. Good. You might feel it a little bit more. Don't run away from sensation. Good. And then right arm reaches straight up towards the sky here. Drop the left hand down to the floor or onto a block inside your left shin so that you can press your forearm up against the shin, give a little squeeze in with your left knee. Good. And then draw your left butt cheek back and in towards the midline of your mat. Good. So it's still that sort of pushing wide and pulling in orientation, right? Again, getting the outer hip and thigh to wake up. Good. Reach the right rib cage open. Just one more breath. Nice up on that. Good. And then release both hands down to the floor, please. Turn your right heel up so your hips are facing the front of your mat. Left shoulder inside the left knee. Slide that left hand around the heel towards the baby toe edge of your foot. So you're wrapping the left arm around your calf. Good. And then lift your chest forward and up and pull your hips up and back. Like you're going to bring your legs back towards like a down dog, but you're keeping your chest up. So it's sort of like plank pose with your arm wrapped around that front leg. Good. Chest up, hips up. Good. Yep. Equal forward and back. Nice. And then unwind the arm, please. Good job. Step the right foot forward just a little bit. Take both legs to straight. Bodakanasana. Have you successfully forgotten what pose we're moving towards?
Yes.
Yes. You're like, I didn't know to begin with. I still don't know. Good. Outer right hip spins forward. Come up on that heel just for a breath or two. So lifting the toes of the left foot up. And again, don't push backwards through the knee here, but feel yourself pulling that left thigh bone up and into the pelvis. Good. Nice, you guys. And then let that foot come back to flat, please. One more full breath. Spin that right hip forward. Good. And then bend the left knee, step the right foot forward, top of your mat. Good. Take your hands to your hips, come all the way up to stand. Beautiful. Right knee comes up and towards, actually, let's do this. Grab your block again and place your block on the baby toe edge or alongside the baby toe edge of your left foot. Yep. On its flattest, lowest setting. Good. And then bring your right knee up in towards your chest. Good. So you're coming into Garudasana, eagle pose. Wrap the right thigh around the left thigh and press your right shin against your left shin. Good. Your right toes are going to post on that block. Good. So the block is there so that you can focus on dropping your hips and pressing your shins together. And then take the left arm over top of the right in front of your chest. Good. Wrap the arms as well. So your butt should be slightly back behind your heels here. So your thigh creases are getting nice and soft. Good. And then you're dropping your tail, lifting your chest up a little higher, but really focus on pressing your shins towards each other. So that doesn't mean squeeze your thighs. It means press your shins towards each other and widen your thighs. Even though they're still probably touching, try and push your inner thighs wide. Pull your sit bones wide. I know it's the weirdest thing to ask you to do in this position. Good. Bring your elbows forward towards your knees, round into your back just for a breath. Good. And then slowly unwind, come all the way out. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah. Yeah, so the block is a blessing and a curse in that pose, right? Because you have it, you can't argue with how deep you can go into your legs. So usually here I would joke and be like, if you're not working that hard in Garudasana every single time, you're cheating yourself. Move your block to the other side, please. But again, what are we doing is we're working internal rotation, which makes those muscles on the outer hips and thighs work, but it also makes them relax, right? So try second side, left knee up in towards your chest, block is on the outside of your right foot. Good. Cross the left thigh over top of the right. And again, try and find where you have connection to the outer shins. I know with the block there, it might not be as complete as it would be without the block, but do your best. And then as you post those left toes on the block, bend your knees a lot, let your butt come back behind your heels. Good, so the thigh creases are nice and soft. And you're squeezing the shins against each other and pulling your sit bones apart. And then right arm comes over top of left in front of your chest. Wrap the forearms. Good, but really work through the legs. So the shins press together, the outer edges of the shins. And then imagine that you are pulling your sit bones wide. Good, so you're really working that rotation of the thigh bones rolling in towards the midline of your body. Yeah. And keeping the legs super awake because you're dropping your hips. Good, bring your elbows forward towards your knees, round into your back. Good. And then slowly come all the way out, unwind. Excellent, you guys. Really good. All right, inhale both arms up to the sky. Good, exhale, bow forward. You can place your block to the side if it's in your way. Good, step the right leg back behind you. Take the left leg up and back to down dog split. The left leg up and back, down dog split. Good, again, reaching out through the heel. Excellent. Bend the left knee, kick your heel in towards your butt, stack the left hip on top of the right. Good. And then pull that left knee. So you still have the hip stacked, but pull your knee forward towards your left armpit. So your thigh is going to parallel the floor. Your heel's going to drop, but your inner thigh is going to lift higher. Inner knee is going to lift higher. Yeah. Yep. So it's literally paralleling the floor like a fire hydrant if you've ever done one of those. So pull that knee forward towards your armpit. So it shoots straight out from the side of the hip. That's it. Exactly, Jessica. You got it. A little further forward, Aparna. Good. And then go ahead and stretch that leg all the way up and back behind you again. Beautiful. And then bring that left knee forward and wide, pigeon pose. Ekapada Raja Kapotasana. It's fun to say. Good. Finding pigeon. So the knee goes wide, wider than the hip point. Keep the pelvic bones facing straight ahead. And if you need to do this pose on your back, you absolutely can. Good. Keep pressing into your left shin and then walk your hands forward, please. And do a little bit of a walk to your left hand corner of your mat. However, I was going to say it wasn't working. Walk to the left so you get that full side stretch. Good. And then walk your torso back to center, walk to the right just a little bit. Again, we want there to be that freedom between the torso and the pelvis so that they're not locked in with each other. Good. And then come back to center, please, and find whatever your resting position is. If you want to block either under your elbows or under your forehead, you can use that. Any position of the arms that helps support the shoulders. Keep your left shin awake. So the toes here, we often say to curl the toes back, but if your shin is not close to parallel to the top of your mat, that can be very hard to do. So the ankle can be in whatever alignment it needs to be, but keep pushing into your shin. Nice. Good. Take one more breath. And then go ahead and walk back up onto your hands, please. Sit towards that left hip so you can bring your right leg around in front of you. Keep that left knee bent. Good. Right knee pulls up in towards your chest. Reach for the foot. Good. Or the ankle if reaching the foot is not a possibility, but lift that foot up off the floor. And then extend the right leg straight out in front of you. Good. So again, holding wherever you have to or using a strap. Good. Sitting towards the front edge of your sit bones. Keep those toes straight up and down so you get this sensation. You can even play a little bit, turn your toes inward and see what that does to the sensation on the outer hip and thigh. And then turn the toes back up. Good. One more deep breath, sit taller, pull your shoulders up and in. Yeah. And then go ahead and release that knee in. Excellent. Good. Cross the ankles, roll forward onto hands and knees. Downward facing dog. As always, I always have like 16 more poses that I want to be able to do in one of these classes. And you know, you don't want to do 16 more poses. So I'm editing. Right leg comes up and back behind you, down dog split. Good. Bend the knee, kick your heel in towards your butt, stack the right hip on top of the left. Good. As you do that, don't let that left heel roll open, right? So you keep it hugging in. That's also going to create more sensation on the outer hip and thigh. Good. Bring the right knee towards your armpit. So as you pull it forward towards the armpit, the inner knee has to lift higher as your heel drops in space just a little bit. So you're paralleling your thigh to the floor, inner thigh to the floor. Good. Beautiful. And then take it all the way up and back behind you. I know there's nothing fun about that position. Good. And then bring the right knee forward and wide. Find pigeon on the second side. Good. Rotate the left hip slightly forward so that there's more space for that right hip bone to lift up off of the right thigh. Good. And then let yourself walk forward. Keep that right shin pushing into the floor and walk towards the upper right-hand corner of your mat with your torso. Good. So again, you're trying to get maximum stretch on that outer left thigh. Awesome. And then walk it back to center, walk to your left. Nice. Come back to center and find your resting position, either using a block or just letting the forehead rest on the arms. Or maybe the forehead doesn't rest on anything. Maybe you're on your forearms more in like a Sphinx pose position. Keep your right shin awake. The idea is that being engaged in that way, where you're pushing into something, don't let it take you to a place where you're clenching. So don't push into the shin and clench around your hip or around your butt. Is press into the shin and then relax. Find just enough engagement to keep the joint feeling like it's being held, and then relax. This is sort of the yogic principle, right? Is that you want to be focused but soft. Right? Engaged but fluid. And so if we don't add tension, if we don't add that feeling of having to hang on to a sensation, a moment, a reaction, then we can easily move away from it, right? Is that we can, quote unquote, forget. We get distracted by something else. So instead of distraction, yoga says you go into awareness. So you don't just jump to something else to fixate on, but you go back to that sensation of the breath. The awareness that there is so much space within, there is so much space around what's happening that you don't have to get stuck in one place, one moment. One more breath here. And then start to walk yourself back up onto your hands. Sit towards that right side of your hip. Swing the left leg around in front of you. Keep the right knee bent just as it is in towards the groin, if you can. And then pull the left knee in towards your chest, lifting the foot up off the floor. If you need to extend that right leg for balance, you absolutely can. And then take holding the foot or the ankle, extend the left leg straight out in front of you, up off of the floor. Again, you can use a strap here. Sitting up nice and tall. Good. You want both hands reaching for the leg in some manner or other. And then again, play with maybe letting the toes start to turn in. Again, pull that left butt cheek wide. Good. And then scooping the belly, turn the toes back up towards center. Sitting up a little taller even, rolling towards the front edge of your sit bones. Deep breath. Good. And then hug that left knee back in towards your chest. Really good. Cross the ankles, roll forward onto hands and knees. Downward facing dog. Here we go.
Are we going into position?
We are. Here it comes. And you're like, finally, I get to find out what this thing is. You've all probably done it before, probably. All right. So bring the right leg up and back behind you, down dog split. And then bring that knee forward towards your nose, armpits over your wrist. Hover there for a second. And then you're sending that right leg out wide to the left. Behind your left wrist, split the leg. So it should be straight out from the hip on the baby toe edge of your foot. Keep sliding that foot wider to the left until your outer right hip drops down to the floor. Keep your left toes down, left heel up towards the ceiling. Turn your chest towards the top of your mat and walk forward onto your forearms. So you should be in like a little sideways split. You got it. Good. Ideally, your back toes stay tucked under and your heel is up towards the sky. Like I said, it's like that straight leg twist, but you're on your belly instead of on your back. You got it. Yeah, hardest part is getting into it. For most people, I would say stay up on your forearms so that you're keeping a lot of integrity through your hips and through your spine. But if it feels like you can comfortably drop down to your belly, yep. So I said, for most people, it is not comfortable to come all the way down.
It's more comfortable.
So then for you, I would say if it's more comfortable, maybe stay up and push back through your left heel a little bit more. Yeah, only because yep. The point is to get to where the stretch is, right? So if we go to where there's no sensation, is the position might be like, all right, it's doing something maybe, but it's not changing anything. Right? So we want to find where there is sensation and work there, right? To relax and to create maybe more twist between the ribs and the hips or more stretch between through the calf, right? Sometimes it's pushing through that left heel, the back heel that people are really going to feel it. Probably you feel this somewhere fairly intensely. And I say every time I mention the name of this pose that I'm going to look up where the name came from, but I never do. So Brigid's Cross.
Brigid's Cross.
Yeah.
Sounds like a movie.
Kind of does. So I have no fun story to fill your mind with about this pose because I have no idea what it's named for. But press into your forearms, lift your chest. Take one more breath. Beautiful. And then walk yourself back up onto your hands. Tuck those back toes. So as you come out, same way that you got in. So lift your hips and pull that thigh all the way up and in and then back up to down dog split. Stretch it straight back. Yeah. And then release that foot to the floor, please. Roll forward to plank pose just to give yourself something else to think about instead of your hips. Turn and look under towards your rib cage. So round into your upper back. Press those inner thighs up and wide. Yeah. And then lift the back of your throat again into plank. And then take the hips nice and high, downward facing dog. And here we go. Left leg up and back. Down dog split. Good. Bring the knee forward towards your nose, armpits over your wrist, pause and hover, and then send that left leg out wide behind your right wrist. So it should be, again, ideally in line with your hips, straight out, and then push wide through that foot until you come all the way to the outer edge of that left hip. Good. And then you're turning your belly towards the floor, shoulders towards the top of your mat, come down onto your forearms if you can. Again, ideally, you're keeping your back toes tucked under and your heel up towards the ceiling. Good. And pressing back And again, it's one of those things where if your knee is dropped, your back leg, it's straight back behind you, if that knee is dropping to the floor and you still feel like you've got plenty of feeling of sensation or stretch on the hip and through your back, you can let the knee come down, right? You can soften that. But if softening it means you cease to feel anything, keep that knee lifted. Good, because again, it's that feeling of extending through the leg and through the whole right side rib cage that's going to be the effect of this pose. So if you don't do that, you're going to miss out on some of it. Good. Keep that left foot, the leg that is underneath you, crossed underneath you, keep that foot awake. Nice. You ever heard of an IT band? That's what you feel right now on that left leg. Most likely that's what you feel. Runs down the outer edge of the thigh from the hip down to the outer edge of the knee. Classically tight in lots of people. Good. Keep your chest up. Keep your breath moving. And regardless of the position, the practice of asana is to learn to unite the body with breath, the mind with breath. So they stop acting as though they are separate entities, but they start relating to each other as the one entity that they are, the one being that they are, that we are. The breath is that context within everything else happens. The mind is thinking within the breath. The body is feeling within the breath. So focus on breath. We can tolerate a lot more. We can allow for this be the moment where long held tension is released. Long held patterns can change. So don't muscle your way through the pose, right? Don't tense through the holding. Just enough engagement and then soften. Good. And then walk yourself back up onto your hands, please. Come out of the pose the same way you got in. So lift that back knee, slide that left leg up and back behind you into down dog split. Yeah, and then place that left foot down to the floor, drop down to hands and knees. Come back to child's pose, knees wide, big toes together to touch. Brigid's cross. Ta-da. You'll remember it forever now. Good. Take one more deep breath, really dropping yourself into your child's pose. And walk yourself back up, please. Good. Find your way onto your backs. So if you're in the room with me, heads can face center of the room. If you're at home, any direction you want. Good. Coming onto your backs, grab your block. And then lift your hips, placing the block underneath your sacrum for a supported bridge pose. Maybe the arms relax alongside you, or the arms come up alongside the ears, maybe to hold opposite elbows. You can really put the arms wherever you want them. Good. Enjoy, just bring your feet a little closer together so your knees are not wider than your hips. There you go. Again, feel the breath as it moves through the entire torso, from the chest all the way down to the belly, and even below the belly, you can feel it. And notice it not just in the front of the body, but the back of the body. You're feeling the heels resting on the floor, shoulders resting on the floor. And really let your pelvis settle onto the block so the groins get soft. Again, it's like you're letting the thigh bones just sink into the pelvis. So all of that heavy, dense muscle that's all around the hips, all around the pelvis. Just imagine it becoming soft like Play-Doh, putty. So the thigh bones just slide into the hip socket, groin soft. And even if nothing happens from that imagining, still hold the image, because the sensation of that holding in your mind will create a response in the body, even if it's subtle. And we are one entity. What happens in the mind affects the body. What happens in the body affects the mind. The breath is the link in between. And gently with your next breath, lift your hips up off the block, place the block to the side. And slowly lower the hips down to the floor, keeping the knees bent. So same position, just letting the hips rest on the floor. Imagining those thigh bones again, drawing down into the pelvic sockets, down into the floor. Letting the spine rest for a moment. And sometimes in this position, it's called constructive rest, right? When you stay here for a fairly long period of time, but sometimes in this position, as you are focusing on the breath, you can sometimes feel the subtle pull of how your breathing actually connects to the tops of your thighs. And by breathing deeper, you actually create more space in your pelvis. You actually create release in your hips and your thighs by breathing deeper. It's not always intense sensation that we need to stay with. It's subtle sensation. If you ever have held this position for 10 minutes or longer, you know that the sensation of just holding this position can become itself intense. To breathe deep enough that you feel like you are releasing those tightest parts of you just from breathing. No pose required. And then with your next breath, bring the knees in towards your chest, please. Cross your right thigh on top of your left. Stacking the knees, separate your feet. Reach for the ankles or the shins. Bodakanasana. Good. Take one more breath, really drawing the knees in towards your belly. Good. And then keeping the right leg on top of the left, just bring the shins towards each other. Let the feet go. Scoot your hips over to the right and drop your knees to the left into a spinal twist with the legs wrapped. So other way, Dana. Hips to the right, knees to the left. Good. So partner, you can take the right knee all the way over the left. There you go. And then twist. Yeah, and if it doesn't feel good on any part to twist with the legs in that position, then just unwind them, stack the knees on top. Feels very good, yeah. Sometimes it can be tough on people's lower back or knees if they're tight. Awesome, you guys slowly unwind, coming back to center, please, bringing the knees back in towards your chest. Take the left knee on top of the right, separating the feet, reaching for the ankles or the shins. And the Gomukhasana legs. And even here, keeping the low back rooting down to the floor. So it's like your sit bones are going wide, but the inner knees are rolling inward, or the knees are rolling in towards the center line. Good. And keeping the left leg on top of the right, release the feet and bring the shins together. Scoot your hips over to the left, drop your knees to the right. So your left leg should still be on top. So you're twisting to the right. There you go. Arms can go wide or wherever they need to go. Nice. And then come back to center, please, unwinding the legs, hugging the knees in towards the chest. Bring your forehead up to meet your knees, squeeze. Good, then start to unwind yourself, finding your position for Shavasana. So whatever you'd like to have, make sure you're warm. But if you feel like maybe there's a lot going on in the legs and you want to place a rolled blanket or a bolster or pillow underneath your knees, that can feel very good for outer hips, lower back. And letting yourself really drop completely into the sensation of your breath. Allowing that internal world to shift and change as necessary. You don't have to know how it's changing, but to just let the breath be that constant flow that brings in everything that you need, and whatever has served its purpose and is no longer needed dissolves away. Very gently bring the awareness back to the breath. Let the body begin to stretch, move, whatever ways serve it well. As you're ready, draw your knees in towards your chest. Roll to your right side. And take a moment before you begin to push the floor away. Come back to an upright seated position. Bring the hands together in front of the heart center, or palm to palm. The asana practice tends to be the one that we pay the most attention to because it's the one that we feel we have the most access to, right? The body is the loudest talker most of the time. But the practice of asana is to become unified in body, mind, breath, awareness. And that in doing that, we start to become aware of the interconnectedness of everything. So whatever sensation is there in the body, it's an open door to that experience. Even if it's a painful sensation, it's an open door. And this is what yoga says is really the heart of the teachings, is that every sensation, whether you like it or you don't like it, it's positive, it's negative, whatever it is, it's an open door to yourself. But if we don't stay with it, we never step through that door. Nothing ever changes. It's just a door that we keep staring at. So the opportunity is, in any pose, any practice, any moment, is to be aware of your breath as that context within sensation is happening. And to treat that sensation like an open door. Open door to experience the connection between the body, the mind, whatever is beyond the body and mind. You keep going back to the sensation of space, the sensation of breath. You find yourself all one piece instead of fractured. And then if that gets confused or lost, you do it again, over and over and over, breath by breath. Every sensation, open door. Don't forget to step through it. Close with the sound of Om, deep breath in. Om. Sliding the thumbs up to the space between the eyebrows. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you guys so much. Really great work tonight. You worked hard. You absolutely did. Have a great rest of your night, great rest of your week until I see you again. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. That was great.